Welcome back. Boston has entered the chat here on Nesson. And, of course, as we know, the Patriots, 7 straight wins. The Bruins, 7 straight wins. We're waiting to be able to say that about the Red Sox come the spring, obviously. Right now, it's building the team that's going to be capable of doing that out there on the field.
Yep.
And just as he does every Wednesday right here on the show, Lou Merloni joins us again. I'm still trying to find the alliteration that works with Merloni and Wednesday and putting it all together. Lou, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Doing good. Finally getting some news. We'll see if we get some action.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had Craig Breslow speak, obviously the chief baseball officer for the Red Sox, earlier this week in Las Vegas at the GM meetings. And the highlights, we'll dive deeper into all these things, but the highlights, wants a good, solid playoff caliber number 2 pitcher,
Yes.
not just another guy that you can kind of bump up in the rotation. Trevor Story, you're the shortstop come 2026, and of course the need for a power bat. Now, we've hit on a lot of these things week after week when you join us, particularly the starters. Oftentimes it's, do you go out, you trade for a Joe Ryan, because this goes all the way back to when they attempted to do so at the trade deadline. What I really liked hearing, though, from Breslow was, listen, we got a lot of depth. 3 through 10, we're good. We need a number 2, and we don't really, not closing the door, we don't really want to trade for that guy and give up prospects and have another Crochet-type deal. We want to go out and spend. We've got the money. We need a free agent. Framber Valdez is out there.
Yep.
Ranger Suarez is out there. Dylan Cease is out there.
Zach Gallen.
Who do you want?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I still want the trade for the arm. For the simple fact that, if you trade for an arm and then spend money on bats, like think about how many arms might be available through trade. How many bats are you hearing that could be available through trade?
Good point.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Any?
No, that's a good point.
No. So it's like if you sign the free agent arm and you spend $25 to $30 million, and then you're like, okay, then we're going to trade for a bat. I don't know what that bat is. I don't know who that person is. So for me, it would be, okay, trade for Joe Ryan, trade for Sandy Alcantara, trade for some of these guys that, that are out there possibly via trade, Peralta, and then go spend the money on free agency, because that's where the bats are. There's arms out there, but I just feel like there's an arm to be acquired through a trade.
If I sat down with you and I gave you a blank checkbook and I said,
It wouldn't be back here.
and I said, Lou, you're in charge of this, Lou. Here's a roster. It is what it is. My only wish from you with this blank checkbook is, I want a duck boat parade here. How would we get there, Lou? Give me the moves. Give me the names. Put names on it. Get me my G-damn duck boat parade. What would you do, sir?
Oh boy, I can spend anything I want.
Yep.
So it would be simple. I would trade for Joe Ryan. I would trade for Ketel Marte, put him at second. I'd sign Alonso and I'd sign Bregman.
Wow.
I mean, that would be it. That would be my infield with power and good hitters and veterans, and that would be my number 2 to go with a plethora of arms that I still would have.
Boy, I didn't even see second base coming. What would you say to the fans that say, why would you get him? There's other areas of need. Why is that? Tell me why that's getting us a duck boat parade in your mind.
Well, he told me I could do anything.
Yeah.
So that's.
I just want an explanation.
He's like, I'm doing anything you
He's
asked
sitting
for.
here in
Yeah,
front of
anything.
you guys,
I
playing
didn't
the
see
show.
your
Because he's-
curveball. That's
Yeah,
all.
number one, it's like I always love the really good switch hitter that can hit second or third. It doesn't really matter, lefty, righty. I think you have an infield of 4 exceptional veteran hitters. So it's like I want more adults. The one thing when Breslow was talking about a power bat, we need a power bat in the middle of the lineup. You need 2. You don't need 1, because Alex
Right.
Bregman's not here. If you brought back Alex Bregman and called him that, you are even. You are where you were last year. So you got to get 2, not 1. So
Yeah.
that's why I say spend the money on bats and go and trade for that arm.
Man,
So
I love that.
jumping back a few spots here, because I like the perspective of trade versus pay and vice versa here. When you're getting to the middle of the order and that power bat, is there a preference that you feel like would make an immediate impact in terms of left-handed batter versus right-handed batter? Because that's where some conversations started to play in terms of who the better fit would be between Alonso and
Schwarber and Alonso, right.
Yeah, and I
Suarez.
think it's just some versatility to positioning. Alonso could play first base. You don't know how long he's going to be there, whereas Schwarber, you're signing a DH. I think it's always better to have a right-handed bat, what I mean, in the middle of that lineup. So you'd prefer a righty. But that's not to say, I think he even mentioned it too, like a guy like David Ortiz as a DH, of course you would take that production. Of course you would take Kyle Schwarber. And if you have a power left-handed bat, sometimes Fenway can be extremely beneficial to them as well. But having that righty there that potentially could be 35 to 45 home runs, I think makes a big difference.
Well, I think the home run thing is something that needs to be highlighted, and Breslow touched on this as well, that it's, obviously there are ways to score runs that don't involve the homer, but it's just such a big part of the game right now, and especially in the postseason. Some numbers that I read earlier, teams that out-homered their opponents in the playoffs over the last 2 years, 52-14,
wow.
8-1 in the World Series. And Boston's just not hitting enough. Below average last year, 9th in the American League. And we can fantasize, obviously, about whether it's Geno Suarez or Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber, obviously. But let's just say the pipe dream doesn't happen where you get that one guy who can come in and, a la Rafael Devers when he was here, give you 40-plus homers, and we go full-on Billy Beane, replace him in the aggregate, right? Where do you find this collection of 20-plus homer guys that can fill out your lineup?
Well, I think it's got to be one of two things. When you look at last year and you look at the Toronto Blue Jays and the Milwaukee Brewers, neither team hit a bunch of home runs, but they made a ton of contact. Now, in the playoffs, Vlad got hot. He started hitting some home runs. You got some unexpected power, whether it was Ernie Clement. Now, Varsho can leave the yard here and there. Barger can as well. So you got to have one of the two things. The Red Sox didn't hit many home runs and they didn't make much contact. That is not a good recipe of success. It's got to be elite in one of the two. So you can be the Yankees and hit a ton of home runs and maybe not make much contact and make up for that. So it's got to be one or the other. So if you don't bring in some serious power in this lineup, you got to bring in some contact in this lineup and hope that some of the young guys that are here improve in that area. So it's got to be one of the two. You've already got guys that can hit you 20, right? Whether it's Story and you're looking at a guy like, Rafael is approaching that area now, and then you've got Abreu as well. So you can mix in a couple more, but it's got to be one of the two. You can't be a team that doesn't make much contact, doesn't hit home runs. That's not very successful, even though they still scored a lot of runs at the Red Sox.
Lou, I'm curious how you sift through all the noise during the offseason that is all over social media. Because every time I look up, I see a Photoshop of Fernando Tatis Jr. in a Red Sox uniform. And I just wonder, what am I missing? Because he looks great in it. Don't get me wrong. Great player, love him. But he's under contract for the next 100 years. Like, what the hell? What's going on there? Are you hearing anything? Or is this just literally people playing fantasy baseball during the offseason?
Yeah, it's really simple. I don't listen to it. I read it.
I think he told us he doesn't do the emotional roller coaster weeks ago.
But I don't listen to it. Throughout the year, every once in a while, the deadline or free agency, you hear Cora say something about, I worked at ESPN, I know how it works. Some people make things up. And I think some of the loudest voices nationally do exactly that. I don't buy any of it. I really don't. Like, it's fun to read. It's fun to watch. And every time I see this story and I read who wrote it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Because I just don't believe it. I think everything is on the table. I think, can Tatis be gotten? Sure, he can. He's $35 million for the next 9-10 years. I know he's young, but Skubal, will he be traded? I guess he could be, but I find it hard to believe, not to say that he won't, that he will, but we'll see what happens. It's just a lot of chatter. And it's funny because I'll go down to the winter meetings next month and I'll talk to some people who really know what's going on and say, hey, you've been rumored, this guy, and this guy. They're like, yeah, we're not interested. So whether we're continuing that rumor to rise up the price for somebody else, or it's just a flat out lie.
Well, thankfully, a little less noise revolves around the young guys that made an impact on this Red Sox team. And I'm wondering if maybe because of their potential success or where the expectation of their game is supposed to go in the upcoming season, if that might put some perimeters on the moves that may or may not need to be made in the offseason. There was some commentary about Marcelo Meyer, him getting stronger. What do you kind of see for him for the upcoming season?
Yeah, the good thing is there's a lot of potential with all these guys. Casas is another one, right? And same thing with Marcelo. I see a lot of people saying, let Bregman go, put Marcelo with third. I really enjoyed Marcelo Meyer. I think defensively, I think that he is an elite defender. But he came up because Alex Bregman got hurt.
True.
He didn't really come up because he was knocking down the door. I think there's other things he needs to work on. I think he's going to be a great young hitter. He's missed too many at-bats. He's missed too many games. There's been a lot of injuries throughout his minor league career and coming up to the system. Those are extremely valuable at-bats. So he can hit a fastball, which is the first checkpoint to be a big league hitter, which is exceptional. But he started to see teams spin the ball on him. He started to see teams throw some off-speed pitches. I think facing left-handed pitching, I think that needs to be worked on. There's still some things he needs to check off. We lump he and Roman together, and we shouldn't. It's just not fair. Roman is a unicorn, okay? This is a guy that said, you need to hit lefties better. And he said, okay, the next year he went on to hit lefties better than righties. Like, everything just sort of clicks easily for him. And it's not to say that it won't for Marcelo. It's just that he needs at-bats, valuable ones that he has missed throughout his career.
Yeah, not even 50 games last year, obviously. Didn't hit particularly well, to your point, but he's an elite defender across the infield. And what you see now, it lumps into this conversation with Trevor Story, right? I think a lot of people wondered, will he opt out? Obviously, last week we found out that he opted back in, 2 years and $50+ million over the course of these couple of seasons. And Breslow comes out and says, Story, there's no debate. He is our starting shortstop come 2026 and isn't alarmed by defensive miscues and some of those areas that fans got all riled up about last year. He says he steadies the infield. He's a leader out there, all of that stuff. And I think there are still some people, it's like, I don't know, whether it's range, whether it's arm strength, does he need to be at second base? So we know it's not going to happen. So what does that mean for second in the nuclear outcome that Alex Bregman obviously is not back here?
I still think I think a lot of really good teams, a lot of championship teams always have one position that they'll just throw bodies at going into the year. And I think second could be that position. I'd love to have Marte here from Arizona. I'm not sure that'll happen. So if you do get that first baseman you're looking for, if Bregman does come back and you've got Story and you say, okay, you don't have a second baseman, well, you've got bodies there. We saw what Romy Gonzalez was able to do. You do have Marcelo Meyer, who I think probably will start the year down in AAA and just kind of get into a groove a little bit. You still have David Hamilton. You still have some bodies there. And, of course, you can acquire somebody as well. So I feel like if you get what you need, and really what they need is corner infield power. If you get that, I think you can kind of throw some bodies at second base.
Let's talk Jarren Durant. I mean, I haven't talked to you since I saw the Sox gave him the 1-year deal. And it seems like the consensus is that's the guy to be moved. Do you see that happening, or do you think Durant's here this season for the duration?
Yeah, I still think it comes down to, who they're looking for in a trade and what that team is interested in. Are they more interested in Abreu? Like, if you have a number 2 starter that you have your sights set on and you say, this is the guy we need, and they come to you and say, we want Rafaela, are you going to say no?
Right.
Like, I think all 3 of them are in play, and Durant, it's like, I've been pretty active on social media. Everyone's like, why are you defending him? I'm like, well, because everyone's crapping on him. He's only the name that's ever being mentioned. He led your position player in WAR. Like, he was in WAR. He was the best player on your team.
Right.
Last year. And it wasn't the super year that he had the year before, but that's a pretty damn good floor, if that's going to be your down year. I still think he's a good player. I think if you do trade him, I think you should get a lot in return.
Are there any prospects that you do draw the line on? Because hearing you talk, every time I feel like I talk to you about trades, you're like, look, if that's a guy you want, go get him by any means necessary. Are there prospects, though, for you, Lou, where you're like, hey, wait a minute now, let's talk about this. I don't want to get rid of that guy. Or are you open, if you think of Joe Ryan, I'm throwing that out there because you keep saying his name. If that's the guy you're trading for, are you willing to part with whoever's?
Everyone's on the table.
Okay.
Let's not name Roman Anthony. I mean, absolutely everybody.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. You drafted Roman Anthony 3 years ago. You get the draft again. Like, everyone's talking about you can't trade Peyton Tolley. Nobody knew who Peyton Tolley was in April. Nobody.
Right.
And all of a sudden now he's a star. Conley Early. Can't trade Conley Early. A year ago, you didn't know who he was.
Right.
You didn't know who Password was. You didn't know who any of these guys were. So, you just had a draft last year. It was a bunch of college pitchers. But I guarantee by August, we'll be talking about somebody that no one's even mentioning because he's come through the system. He had a great offseason. He's thrown the ball real well, and he's climbed all the way to AA, AAA, and we're wondering if he's ready for the big leagues. Yeah. You draft every single year. You identify guys that are untradeable like a Roman Anthony because he's a unicorn. He's a star. Everybody else, you don't want to go crazy. I'm not talking about trading the whole farm.
Right.
But you try to win in the big leagues. That's what the minor leagues are for. That's your strength. Use your strength and improve this team.
We could agree. You mentioned Tristan Casas moments ago, so we're hearing that he should be good to go to at least start participating in spring training. He's fully committed to be living down in Fort Myers in the offseason. Just kind of gauging your thoughts on what he needs to kind of bring to the table to make sure that he can reestablish himself with the organization.
Yeah, I think he needs at-bats in AAA. You know, last year you walked into camp and said, he's your first baseman. There was a little fluke injury the year before, but the injuries were a concern the 2 previous years. So you went into the year thinking he's your first baseman. Well, he got hurt again and missed the whole year. He needs at-bats. You know, he needs, whether it is go down, maybe it's April, maybe it's May. We know what the potential is. You know, hopefully he goes down there, finds his swing, gets comfortable. At that point, you might need a first baseman DH. Injuries do happen. And then he can still be a valuable piece for you. I just don't think you build your offseason banking on him being your first baseman. There's just been too much time missed. There's a ton of potential. You know, hopefully we learn things from year to year. Like everybody at spring training wants everyone to make the team out of camp. You know, guys like Roman Anthony weren't on the team in camp. Neither was Marcelo Meyer, Nick Sogard, Abraham Toro. None of these guys had roles, and they help you win. So by starting the year in AAA doesn't mean they've given up on you. Doesn't mean you're not going to help. Doesn't mean you're going to be not an important part of this team. It just means that you've lost a lot of time, and you got to go down and work on a few things. That's why I say guys like Casas, Meyer, Campbell, they're all in AAA to start. Go build your big league team without them, and that is outstanding depth when those guys are ready and you need them.
Casas spends his offseason.
Tell the people what I wrote you about, Lou. Go ahead.
Baseball godfather.
You are the baseball godfather, dog.
right there
like
on the
every
paper.
every week, this dude. Hey man, you're the best you're the best in the game, Lou. I'm sorry, you're the best in the game, bro.
I was going to say, with Casas, you know, he spends his offseason typically in Miami. He's relocating to Fort Myers for the months to come. There's no questioning this dude's dedication.
It's still different.
Lou Merloni joins us every Wednesday here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. And the hot stove, it's only ramping up. Lou, thank you so much, man. We'll talk again soon.
You got it. Can't wait. Enjoy the week. Talk to you next Wednesday.